I'm intrigued by your answers to all of these questions, because you are
Indeed.
a renowned Tory supporter and donor, and I know you are particularly unhappy about what the government's done about tax-free shopping. So first of all, tell me about that campaign.
Well, on tax-free shopping, all the other European countries give a rebate on VAT on retail expenditure.
Yes.
In this country, Rishi Sunak changed that as soon as when he became Chancellor. So we do not give a rebate. As a result, a lot of people, tourists who would come to London and the UK, go to Europe instead and spend their retail money there. So not only are we losing out on retail expenditure, we're also losing out on hotels, restaurants and theatres. Global Blue, which is a expert in duty-free shopping, recently did a survey which shows that with American visitors who are the most important in this area, Britain got back to 100% of 2019 level of expenditure, but Spain was 176%, Italy 190%, and France 226%. With the GCC countries, the Middle Eastern world mostly, we were at 64% of 2019. France was at 126%.
So what's going on here? I mean, is this a government-owned goal again on business?
Yes, so they're completely shooting itself in the country in its foot, and it's typical of the short-termism outlook of the Treasury.
So look, I keep on banging on about this 100 grand you gave Boris Johnson. Do you regret giving him that money now?
No, I don't regret giving him that money, because Boris Johnson got Brexit to happen, although not much has happened since.
Well, quite, yeah.
And also won a huge majority in an election, which would have enabled the Conservative Party to do a lot of things it should have done, which it hasn't.
But there was some coverage that I got the impression, I think it was in The Guardian of all places, that you felt quite let down by Johnson. You don't think he delivered on his promises?
I wouldn't believe anything The Guardian says about me. No, I mean, I think actually the way he got rid of was quite disgraceful. I think he lost his way a bit. I mean, I thought he'd get a good team around him to run the country properly. He wasn't able to do that, and you know, he did that in London when he was mayor of London. I thought the same thing would happen now, but we're driven by a sort of Treasury orthodoxy in this country. What Liz Truss wanted to do was completely the right thing, and we've got to get back to an idea of actually creating growth in this country. Labour talks about it, but all it's going to do is increase expenditure and raise taxes further. Raising corporation tax to 25% was one of the most disgraceful things a Conservative government's ever done. It's going to damage the long-term growth of the economy. It's going to prevent people investing in this country. Freezing the tax thresholds was an affront to a tax rise by any other name.
Yeah.
And reducing the threshold for the top rate of tax to $125,000 a year is going to disincentivize the whole of middle management in the UK.
And
I mean,
what if I take
these are not Conservative policies.
OK, so what if I take the contrary sort of Angela Rayner view that, well, you would say that because you're a multi-millionaire businessman and you're representing the 1%? You know, should
it's nothing to do with me. I'm not thinking about myself. But the rich can look after themselves. The rich can go and travel anywhere they want and live anywhere they want in the world. They don't have to stay here and pay taxes. And Labour's idea that abolishing non-dom status, no one's going to leave. People are already leaving with the thought of that happening. It's nothing. I'm thinking about middle management, the people who work in my company, the people who strive hard to earn a living. They're being disincentivized. A lot of the reason why people haven't come back to work is that taxes are too high. And the whole benefit system is skewed to keep people on benefits rather than encourage them to go back to work. The marginal rates of tax are much too high. We have the OBR, which is one of the silliest things George Osborne ever did, been given godlike status. Osborne's idea was that they should keep government honest in its forecasts. Yeah. But it's effectively driving policy now. It's one of the worst forecasters in this country. Last year, it was third worst in its forecast. It's never made a forecast that's been correct. And still, it's driving policy, and it's been being talked of as if it's sort of has godlike status.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous.
So would it be fair to surmise that you're not a great fan of Chancellor Jeremy Hunt?
No, not at all. I mean, everything is being blamed on Liz Truss. The thing that spooked the markets, more or less, was, more than anything else, was the subsidy on energy costs, which then was forecast to be 150 billion. We've continued with subsidising energy costs. It hasn't cost anything like that. It coincided with the Bank of England, maybe on purpose, announcing quantitative tightening on the same day as the mini budget. Obviously she rushed at things. She was taking things much more quietly and much more steadily. But I mean, we had a treasury, one of the most important departments of government, being run from Argentina.
What do you mean by that?
Tom Scholar was in Argentina half the time.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been a misjudgment on Kwasi Kwarteng's behalf to have got rid of Tom Scholar.
Yeah, but I mean, he deserves being sacked for not being on the job all the time.
So are you now regarding the Conservatives as anti-business? I mean, what would you rather? Do you want to see Sir Keir Starmer running the country?
No, but I mean, of course not, because they're going to be even worse. But I mean, what's the point of having a Conservative government which is following policies which have been followed for the last 15 years and haven't delivered good growth? And we've had anemic growth. We're no worse than the rest of Europe, which is basically the same. But we have a sort of social democratic government in power at the moment. We don't have a Conservative government, and there's no one who really believes in driving the economy and changing the system to do that.
Has Reform caught your eye? Have you considered perhaps...
Well, I mean, Reform is a sort of protest party, which will take votes from the Conservative Party, and if it's allowed to, will grow to the level the Brexit Party did, and force the Conservatives into a different direction.
But would you consider giving money to Reform?
Well, no, I haven't considered doing that at the moment.
Would you give more money to the Tories?
No, I certainly wouldn't give any money to Tories. They don't stand for anything I believe in, though.
And let's talk about the business community in general, the recovery post-pandemic, Brexit. Some people were surprised that you supported Leave because you're very much a European. You've got a quite strong foreign workforce, not just over in this country, but in your hotels around the world. Some people might have felt that it would be self-defeating for somebody like you to support Brexit.
Yeah, but because I operate in Europe and I see how it works. And I understand it better than anybody here, and the sort of levels of bureaucracy and make ours look relatively gentle. Although of course it's become pretty terrible here. So that's the main reason. And also, I believe that there's a huge democratic deficit in Europe, where the European Union is getting bigger and bigger. You have a number of effectively bureaucrats running Europe. And countries like Italy, where I have a big investment, are sort of hamstrung by what the European Union tells them to do. They can't have an independent economic policy because they're in the euro, and also, of course, because they're expecting money from the European Union. Unless they do as they're told, they don't get the money.
But it sounds to me like you don't think the government has maximised any Brexit opportunities so far.
But I mean, we've been terribly slow in getting on with things. Obviously, joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership is an important move, and will benefit us going forward. All this thing of it's only going to deliver 0.8% growth is a load of nonsense. That's the fastest growing part of the world. The European Union is shrinking as a percentage of world GDP, whereas that part of the world is growing in a big way and should be pushing in that direction.
Final question on the CBI. It's been in the news because Tony Danker's had to step down in disgrace. Should the CBI be scrapped?
I mean, the CBI should have been scrapped a long time ago. And I mean, just because there's some sort of sexual sort of misgoings on, the Director General is sacked. When the various Director Generals have run terrible policy and taken decisions which are completely wrong, they were allowed to continue. But it's never done, and it's always been a sort of big company big company, manufacturing-orientated entity. It's never done anything for the service industries. It's never done anything in my industry. I won't shed many tears if it disappears.
All right, fair enough. Well, Sir Rocco Forte, I hope you have a very successful summer period in your hotels. Thank you very much for joining me this morning.